It's Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. Let's talk about the news. From Reuters, Russia fights cross-border raid that Ukraine says is Russian opposition. On Monday, the Russian government announced that it was fending off an incursion by Ukrainian saboteurs in its Belgorod region, but Ukraine's government says the saboteurs are Russian citizens who are sympathetic to the Ukrainian cause and who want to overthrow Russian President Putin's government. As of late Tuesday, Russia's statements indicated they had successfully managed to deal with two armed groups that were causing trouble and taking territory within their borders, members of the Liberty of Russian Legion and Russian Volunteer Corps, according to Ukrainian intelligence, though there's enough fog of war surrounding these incursions that it's difficult to know who they actually were, what they actually managed to do, and whether or not they've actually been handled in the way the Russians say they've been. It does seem like some damage has been caused, some utilities in these areas shut off, and that some weapons, possibly including military vehicles, were stolen by these groups. But there's a chance some or all of these reports from all sides are partially or entirely false, and it'll likely be at least a few days before we know anything concrete on the matter. From Ars Technica, Facebook hit with record €1.2 billion GDPR fine for transferring EU data to US. EU and Irish regulators have ordered Meta, the umbrella company behind Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, to pay a €1.2 billion fine for violating the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, by sending users' personal data to the United States. Meta is appealing the ruling, but this represents the largest ever GDPR-related fine, and it was scaled up to indicate the severity of Meta's apparent violations, specifically that it repeatedly, knowingly, and, quote, with at least the highest degree of negligence, end quote, infringed on the personal data of EU citizens, and it did so in such a way that a substantial amount of its profits were derived from said data. Meta is hoping their appeal will be successful and/or that the EU and US will figure out some kind of deal that will allow data transfers of this kind, which are common for online platforms of all shapes and sizes, to safely occur between the US and European nations without triggering future fines. And from the Wall Street Journal, Western states agree to cut use of water from Colorado River. The governments of California, Arizona, and Nevada have agreed to cut their Colorado River-derived water use by a collective minimum of 3 million acre-feet by 2026 in order to keep two of the river's primary reservoirs, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, from reaching dangerously low levels. And an acre-foot is about as much water as a family of 4 consumes for all purposes annually. These cuts include a 1.5 million acre-foot reduction by next year, and they're necessary due to a critical depletion of Lake Mead in 2022, caused in part by a 2-decade drought in this part of the United States. The Colorado River is vital to the water needs of 40 million people and 5.5 million acres of farmland, but its flow has been declining, and all the states that have the right to tap into it have been hesitant to reduce their usage, even if a new round of reductions, on top of earlier rounds, was necessary. This agreement was reached after federal officials agreed to compensate users for most of their reductions, which is especially important to farmers who rely upon the Colorado to irrigate their water-hungry crops. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com, and you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.